Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head back to England once again, and we're going to go to another brewery that I've never tried anything from before. Now, these guys seem to be quite a well-established and well-respected brewery within their local area, but they are a pretty small operation, so their beers haven't travelled too far afield. But they seem to do a wide variety of different styles, which for me is always a good sign when it comes to looking at a new brewery. Now, the beer that we're going to have a look at from them today is a style that I haven't reviewed all that much of on the channel. You just don't find them all that often, particularly outside of Germany, but it's a style that I really do quite enjoy, and this one really just kind of caught my eye because one, it was a brewery I didn't know, and two, it's such a rare style, especially from an English brewery. But I've heard very good things about this brewery and good things about this beer, so needless to say, I'm very, very curious to see what this one is going to have in store for us. So hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head to England like I said. We're going to go to Northumberland in the northeast of the country, a little bit to the north of Newcastle to the kind of Morpeth area, and to be specific, we are going to go to Acklington Park Farm, which happens to be home to Rigg Furrow Brewery. So this particular beer is simply called Landbier. It comes in at 4.8% ABV, and as the name suggests, this one is a Landbier lager. So yeah, there are a number of English breweries these days, like Braybrook and a couple of others, that are brewing some very, very good lagers, but Don Zolko being one too. But yeah, it's the first time I've ever seen an English brewed land beer as far as memory serves me. So yeah, this one really caught my eye because of that reason, and again, it was a brewery that I hadn't heard of before. So yeah, proper farmhouse brewery, these guys. But this beer is one that I picked up in Grunting Growler in Glasgow, a lovely little shop actually with a wee bar and a hefty selection of bottles, so definitely worth checking out if you find yourself there. And they have a couple of beers from this brewery if I'm not mistaken, but the Landbier was the one that really caught my eye because I had a couple of these in Germany, but you just really don't find them outside of there in my experience. But yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see how we go. The Landbier, 4.8% lager beer from Rigg Furrow Brewery near Morpeth in Northumberland in England. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done for or will hopefully do from Rigg Furrow in the future. Very first time I'm trying one of their beers as I mentioned, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the English playlist along with a number of other things. That's been added to quite regularly, of course, because we do get quite a few English beers out here in Hong Kong, and do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days, even if I do say so myself. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Rigg Furrow Brewery. So Rigg Furrow Brewery, as I've mentioned to you already, can be found on Acklington Park Farm, if I can say that properly, near Morpeth, which is north of Newcastle in Northumberland in the northeast of England. So the brewery was founded back in 2017, and it was founded and is run by the Howie family. So this is Theo, Pippa, Robert, Louise. And Theo and Pippa are husband and wife, while Robert and Louise are Pippa's parents. So it's a proper family business, this one. But Theo was apparently a long-term home brewer, and he went on to gain practical brewing experience at Wildcard Brewery in London. But he and Pippa lived together in the city before they moved back to the north to start their own brewery together. So the name Rigg Furrow is apparently taken from the term Ridge and Furrow, or Rigg and Furrow as it would be in the northeast of England and in Scotland as well, which is a farming term used to describe the sort of earthy ridges and troughs that are created by ploughing the same piece of farmland over years. And apparently this farming technique dates back to the 10th century. I will admit I'm really not up to date on my agricultural history, but it is actually quite interesting when you go and read into it. But the brewery itself is based in some of the farm buildings that used to be a milking parlour. So they started brewing in 2017 on a 10-barrel brew kit, which is around 1,600 litres per brew, and they bottled their beers in the early days. But they've gradually scaled up the capacity of the brewery over the last few years, and more recently they've planted some apple trees on the farm and started producing farmhouse cider as well. And they also produce some of their own Golden Promise malt on site, which is quite interesting. But they received funding from the Northumberland Small Business Fund in 2024, and this allowed them to purchase a new canning line and distribute their beers more widely. They've got an on-site tap room as well, which opens on Fridays and Saturdays, and it hosts different food trucks on a rotating basis, and they've got a larger space as well, which is for hosting events like weddings and things like that, and this is called at the End Hemel. But like I said, this brewery does a fairly wide variety of different styles. They seem to be quite experimental actually, which is kind of interesting. But as of October 2025, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 125 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. So yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Rigg and Furrow Brewery for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, or you can check out the Untappd page to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. And they do have an online shop as well, so if you're in England or Scotland or whatever, you can order the beers and have them delivered to you, which is quite nice. But yeah, I think, as I say, that's everything we really need to say in the history section of this video. So let's go on and actually talk about the beer itself. So the Landbier as a style, from what I understand, it can vary. If we talk about Germany, because this is a German style beer, this one, when it comes to the Landbier, this can vary from region to region, and basically the idea of a Landbier is that it's going to use very local ingredients, so they can vary. There's not really a set thing when it comes to Landbier. So I'm guessing what they've done in this one is that they've produced, most of these beers are unfiltered and have a little bit of natural haze to them, so I'm guessing what they've done here is they've produced a lager using that Golden Promise malt that they produced themselves. I'm guessing that's what we'll have in this beer, which should be really nice. But yeah, I quite like the artwork on this, I have to say. The kind of hay bale sitting there, and just the colour of this one. Maybe I'm a bit biased because, you know, German beer style, I love Borussia Dortmund. Maybe that's one of the other reasons why this one kind of caught my eye actually. But yeah, plain silver top on the can there. It's a 440ml can, this one. As we said, 4.8% Landbier, this, an unfiltered lager. I think this should be quite nice. We can get it out and into the glass and see what we have then. I've been looking forward to this one for quite a wee while actually. There we are, a little bit of excited bubbles as we go to open, but yeah, that's probably because of how far this beer's travelled. I think this might well be the most travelled can of Rigg and Furrow so far, who knows. But yeah, this one made it all the way to Hong Kong from Northumberland via Glasgow. So yeah, there we go. Anyway, so we've maybe got about half of the beer out and into the glass at the moment, but you can see this one looks really very, very nice. So before the head disappears, we can see that it's got about a quarter to a 1/3 finger of quite a bubbly, soapy white head there. You can see some medium-sized bubbles on the surface of the liquid and the sort of soapier things just a little bit further up, but that head is going to very quickly fade away to just be a very thin foamy layer. There are a few little, you can see a few little bits of sediment particle in this one, but we've had it in the fridge and it's been quite chilled actually, so not surprised that there's a little bit of sediment particle or suspension particle, I guess we could say, visible in this one. But it's got a lovely blonde, kind of pale golden straw colour. Remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. But you don't often have to care about that when it comes to lager beers, in all honesty, and that's quite a big style umbrella, of course. So yeah, not too much in the way of visible carbonation. You can see a couple of bubbles just making their way up to the surface every so often, but yeah, it looks pretty nice, and appearance wise it is pretty much in keeping with what I've seen from Landbiers previously. So yeah, let's go on and have a little look at the aroma of this one then. I don't think we need to say anything more about the appearance of the beer, so let's do it. Let's have a look at this. Yeah, so I'm going to say straight away, as you'd expect with a lot of these kind of light lager beers, there's not too much going on in the aroma. The idea is that these beers are meant to be nice and light and drinkable, and I'm sure this one, just going by the aroma, I think it's going to deliver that. But one of the things I always look for in these kind of German style lager beers is that I want them to be authentic. I want them to taste like they would have if they were brewed in Germany. I want them to just to have that same sort of flavour profile, and you can tell with this one it's going to be like that. I think there's a bit of German hop in this, just going by the green component, and I think there's a wee bit of German malt in addition to what they've put in from their own stock, I guess. But yeah, the more you sugar this one up though, the more the aroma comes out. It's quite an unassuming aroma, if we can call it that. But yeah, it's giving you kind of everything you'd want. You've got the little bit of hoppy character, the breadiness, and a wee bit of yeasty character too. So yeah, let's just break this down and look at it a bit more in depth, as we always do. So yeah, the backbone of this beer then, you've got a lovely little bit of a kind of fresh white bready bread crust in there. And then there's little hints of kind of woodiness as well. Yeah, little touch of woodiness, quite a bit of cracker in this one too, I would add. And there's maybe a little bit of, I do get a little bit of a kind of wholemeal brown bready sort of note coming out of the beer. So yeah, the way that all of that kind of pieces together, I think, is really very, very nice too. So yeah, Jacob's cream cracker, lovely kind of fluffy, yeah, lovely little bit of wholemeal brown bready character in there, and then on top of that you've got the fluffier white bready character as well. So yeah, the way that goes together is quite nice. So the breadiness with this one, you can tell, I think you can tell with this, there's a mix of English and German malt in there, because it's got the wee bit more graininess that you expect of the English malt, but it's got the kind of drier crispness that you would expect of the German malt. And I do wonder if there's a little touch of Pilsner malt in here, because you can smell that kind of crispness coming out of the beer at the back of the nose for sure. But yeah, on top of the white bready notes, there is a little bit of I do get a wee touch of like a kind of biscuity sweetness coming out of the beer. So there's a wee bit of that kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing. Maybe like a very slight touch of honey or something like that. There's a decent wee bit of sweetness to this, but for the most part, the focus of the aroma here should be on the kind of grainy side of things. So yeah, mostly wholemeal brown bread, white bread, and then a wee bit of an almost Pilsner malty character with some sweeter biscuity notes. So yeah, the way that all of that pieces together in this one, I think, is very, very nice. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for the malty side of things with this beer. So let's go to the yeasty side of things then. And to be honest, yeah, with a Landbier, you would expect a little bit more yeasty character in there because of the fact that these beers tend to be unfiltered. So yeah, at the back of the nose with the yeasty side of this beer, for me, there's quite a little bit of, how do you say, there's quite a little bit of like there's a bit of a more kind of grainy wholemeal brown bready character at its core. So yeah, wholemeal brown bready character at its core. Then it's got a bit more of a kind of fluffier white bread and a lot of cracker and other stuff coming out of it too. So yeah, all in all, I think the yeasty character of this one just adds a wee bit more depth to the aroma, and I quite like that, I have to say. But yeah, in terms of malty and yeasty characters, I think we've said everything we really need to. Let's have a wee look at the hoppy side of things with this beer then. So yeah, hoppy part of this beer, it's kind of what you'd expect. I suspect there's a little bit of Hallertau or Tettnang in here, one of those kind of typical German noble hops, if you like, maybe Mittelfrüh, or could be something slightly stronger like Pearl, you never know. But yeah, you've got the things you would expect if you know your German noble hops. There's a little touch of earthiness in there, but it's quite a smooth earthiness, which for me is always the dead giveaway that it's German hops that are being used. There's a wee bit of woodiness, little slight herbal note in there, lovely, quite bright floral aromaticity, but it's not too spicy or anything, it's just quite nice and airy almost. And then yeah, you've got that nice kind of bright grassiness at the front of the nose as well. So yeah, the way that all of that pieces together in this one, I think is really quite nice. So that gets a big thumbs up from me as well. Yeah, the way that that goes together is pretty damn nice, I have to say. So yeah, aroma wise, I think this beer is pretty damn good. Yeah, lovely kind of grassiness to this one, and that's one of the things that really lingers in the aroma of this beer for me. But yeah, green component is what you'd expect if you know your Hallertau Type 9 German noble hops, and it's very, very smooth, and that's the thing that kind of is the giveaway about German hops for me. Yeah, so on the fruity side of things, then, just to round off our aroma section of this video, for me, the fruity side of things is kind of what you'd expect. There's a little bit of kind of apricot-y character in there. So you've got that dried apricot-y note. There's a little bit of sultana almost. Actually, dried apricot-y notes, sultana. What would you say? Maybe a bit of oily pear as well, and a very slight, yeah, oily pear, kind of apricot, sultana, and maybe just a little tiny hint of like a fresh green apple or something like that. Especially when you sugar it up, you can feel that kind of mixing in with the grassy esters a little bit. So maybe just a teeny little hint of lime or something like that. So yeah, the way that all of that goes together in this one is really nice, and it's kind of what you would expect if you know your German noble hop. So let's get the rest of this guy out into the glass then, and we can have a taste of this beer and see what it's all about. But on that pour, it does look very, very nice. As I always say though, take a little bit of time to just enjoy the aroma of your beer before you get stuck into it. That is always half the experience when it comes to craft beers. So yeah, this one is the Landbier from Rigg Furrow Brewery on Acklington Park Farm near Morpeth, just to the north of Newcastle in the northeast of England. A 4.8% Landbier, which is a style you really don't find very often from English breweries. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange, skål, cheers. Oh yeah. Now, I'm going to say straight away, it's just a really nice drinkable beer, this one, and from the Landbiers, you can't really ask much more than that, in all honesty. So yeah, it gives you everything you want from this style. I'm trying to remember, there was one that I used to really like. There was one that I used to really like from my friend from his town in Germany. I reviewed it on the channel years ago, but I've honestly forgotten what the name of that one is. But it kind of reminds me of that a little bit. There's a wee bit of nostalgia attached to this beer style for me. It's one of the first kind of German styles that I really got into. Landbiers, I think you'll find primarily in Bavaria, if I'm not mistaken, but it's not uncommon to find them in other places as well. But I think the origin of this Landbier style is Bayern, Bavaria. But yeah, this one, yeah, it is very, very nice. And it gives you everything you want from a lager beer. So remember, the technical definition of a lager is that these beers will undergo lower temperature fermentation using a bottom fermenting yeast, usually between 8 to 12 degrees Celsius, whereas ales will ferment at higher temperatures using top fermenting yeasts. You know, you're talking between 15 to 18 degrees Celsius. So yeah, this one, it's actually a very smooth lager, this, and really it's not the crispest of lagers. Is that even a word? The most crisp of lagers. My English is very bad these days. It's not the most crisp of lagers that you're going to come across, but it's really nice and smooth and just easy to drink, actually. So yeah, this gets a big thumbs up from me, but you would expect a little bit more smoothness, come to think of it, from a Landbier, just because it's got that more yeasty component to it. But it's certainly not the kind of haziest, if we can call it that. I'm always reluctant to use that word these days when we talk about lagers. It's certainly not the haziest of Landbiers that I've come across. So yeah, anyway, let's break this beer down then and describe the flavour a little bit more. So if you go to the middle third of your palate then, the backbone of the beer, you can feel that lovely smooth white bready bread crust in there. As you move further forward on that middle third of your palate, you can feel there's a little touch of woodiness in there. So yeah, you've got that fresh white bready bread crust in there, a wee bit of a more woody character as well, the Jacob's cream crackers coming out of it. Then above that you start to get, above that you can feel there's a more kind of wholemeal brown bready sort of layer coming out of the beer too. So that lovely wholemeal brown bready layer just kind of lingers there. It gives you a wee bit of sweetness, but into the aftertaste it does give you a little bit more kind of graininess, which I think is really nice too. So yeah, the wholemeal brown bready character in there, the fluffier white bready notes kind of sit on top of that, and then yeah, the above the fluffier white bread you do get a little bit more of, I do suspect there's a little touch of Pilsner malt in here, to be honest with you. So yeah, wholemeal brown bread, fluffier white bread, then on top of that I think there's a slightly crisper layer in there, which makes me think maybe a wee touch of Pilsner malt. So let's look at that. Could be wrong, right enough. It's actually, I think there could be a wee bit of Pilsner malty character further back. As I've often said, sweeter flavours come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back. So yeah, how would we say? I think further forward it's almost got a little slightly porridgey type layer sitting on top of that white bread, and I've got a feeling that might be the Golden Promise malt actually. I think that might well be their own Golden Promise malt that's in there, because normally Golden Promise, it works quite well in New England hazies because it sort of helps thicken up the mouthfeel a little bit. So I think, yeah, that's what we're getting in this one. It's got a wee bit of that almost kind of porridgey type flavour in the middle of the palate. So yeah, you've got the fluffier white bread, then a sort of porridgey layer, and I suspect there's a wee touch of kind of Pilsner malty character further back on this one. But I think it's the Golden Promise that's kind of smoothing out the whole mouthfeel in this beer, in all honesty. So yeah, in the dead centre of your palate though, you can feel there's that little circle there where it's got a wee bit of a kind of, there's a little bit of a Werther's original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing, and then yeah, you have a bit of there's a bit of a sort of McVitie's digestive biscuity kind of character coming out of it as well. So yeah, there's a little bit of sweetness in the middle of your palate with this beer, but not overly much, in all honesty. So yeah, for me, the malty character in this one, it does get more and more grainy the further that you go into the aftertaste. So it's actually, the graininess actually has a little bit of sweetness to it, and that's not something I think you'd find in a German brewed version of this beer. But then again, I think it's an English brewed one, we have to remember that, and they've sort of taken the concept of this and done it. So yeah, maybe marking this one in terms of authenticity compared to the German ones isn't, you know, wholly suitable in this case. But the question should always be, do you like the beer? And the answer is yes with this one. So that is the main thing. I think I like what they've done with this. They've taken that Landbier idea from Germany and done it with their own farm produce, which I think is quite interesting. So yeah, I think we've said everything we really need to about that middle third of your palate then. So let's go to the back third of your palate. So as I've often said, the back third of your palate is going to give you very similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, but just at different sort of intensities. So yeah, the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of kind of bready build up in there. You've got the wholemeal brown bread in the bottom, then you've got the fluffier white bread in the middle, then a wee bit of that more, what I suspect is the kind of porridgey Golden Promise on top. But yeah, the base of that back third of your palate is the fresh white bready bread crust in there, the Jacob's cream cracker is kind of sitting on top of that. The wholemeal brown bread sits on top of that. You can feel it's a little bit fluffier, lighter and more airy. Still has a wee bit of that sweetness though. The white bread sits above that, which again feels a little bit lighter, taller, fluffier and more airy. Then you've got I suspect a little touch of actually no, not yet. You've got the more kind of porridgey layer of the yeah, you have the more kind of porridgey layer of the what I suspect is their own Golden Promise, and then yeah, you can feel there's a little touch of an almost Pilsner malty crispness sitting on top of that. But let's focus on the yeasty characters that sit above everything else on that back third of your palate. So yeah. yeah, so for me, the back third of your palate, you can feel that there's a lovely kind of more dense, you can feel that there's that more there's a more dense wholemeal, brown bready sort of thing at the core of this yeasty character. Then as you move out from it, it's actually kind of oily and sweet, but then as you move further out from that, it's got a little bit more of that kind of grainier wholemeal brown bread, or almost that kind of porridgey type character that I was talking about from the Golden Promise. Then the very edge of the yeasty character is more like a, pardon me, like more like a kind of Jacob's cream crackery sort of note. So yeah, there's a fair little bit of that coming out of this one, and yeah, as I say, I really do like how that pieces together in this beer, so that gets a big thumbs up from me. The yeasty character in this one, I think, is what really makes the Landbier, and it gives you that smoothness. But the Golden Promise malt in here is also giving it a little bit of unique character too. So this one's testing my palate a little bit, which I really do quite like. 4,400 odd beers in, you want things that are going to make you think about, and this one really is doing that. So yeah, I think we've said everything we need about the yeasty pardon me, part of the beer, and we can say back third of your palate, you can feel the flavour is taller, then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just compresses down and squashes together that little bit more, which is really quite nice. Yeah, hoppy side of things then. So as I said earlier on, I'm pretty sure this beer is using Hallertau or Tech 9 Mittelfrüh. It's very smooth and very German, to be honest with you. So in the back corners of the palate, you've got that lovely little bit of smooth earthiness there. As you move further forward from that, it's got a little bit of a herbally, woody kind of character. And then, yeah, that spreads forward quite a wee bit. As you reach the front corners of your palate, it's got a little touch of, yeah, it's got a little touch of a more kind of floral note to it, but then yeah, around the front curve of the tongue, it's just that little bit lighter and more grassy as well, I would say. So yeah, the way that all of that pieces together in this one, I think is really, really nice. So yeah, that lovely grassy character in this one is yeah, that lovely grassy character in there is great. Yeah, it gives you that, the green component in this one just gives the beer that little bit of extra freshness. But let's talk about the front third of your palate then, and the fruity side of the beer. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again you get that little bit of bready build up in there. There's a wholemeal, the wholemeal brown bready character in the bottom, the fluffier white bread in the middle, then the more, as you would say, then there's the more sort of golden promisey porridgey thing on top. You've got the same layers in the base of that front third of your palate. Yeah, white bready bread crust, Jacob's cream cracker, wholemeal brown bread, fluffier white bread, the oaty creaminess, or the sort of how do you say, golden promisey type notes, and then you've got that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll the way out of the beer. So let's have a little look at that fruity side of things. Yeah, so fruity side of this beer for me, it's kind of as we described in the aroma, in all honesty. If you go to the back of that front third of your palate, it's got this sort of, sultana dried white green grapey kind of thing. So you've got sultana notes at the back of that front third of your palate. As you move further forward, there's a wee bit of dried apricot underneath. There is that more, you have got a little bit more of that oily peary sort of thing. Then yeah, as you come further forward, there's a wee bit of a kind of fresh green appley character coming out of this one. So yeah, the way that the fruity character in this one, I say, it's mostly oily pear, mostly kind of sultanas and apricots and things like that. It's just nice and kind of smooth, and it's typical for what you'd expect of a kind of blonde lager beer, if we can put it that way. So yeah, I think we've said everything we need to about the flavour of this one. I really like this. It's very smooth and very kind of easy drinking, actually. So on that note, it's giving me a wee bit of gas. On that note, I think we can round off this review with a wee quick look at the mouthfeel. So for me, this beer, it's probably mid-range, light-bodied. The carbonation is very, very smooth in this one. It's got a lovely little bit of cleanliness to it as well. As I say, the more yeasty nature of this beer is just giving you that little smoothening element, if you like. So it's maybe a little bit smoother than you'd find from some of the German beers. I think the German ones would be just a little bit more crispness, maybe a little touch more Pilsner malt and things like that in it. But yeah, in terms of the IBU count in this beer, I think we're talking like 15, 20 IBUs, kind of standard for a sort of blonde Helles lager. Whatever. The Landbier, of course, is considered a distinct style from that, and there is not really standards for this style, if you like. It varies from region to region, town to town, and so on. But yeah, about 20-ish IBUs. The malt base, as we say, it's a bit drier underneath, smoother in the middle, and it's a bit, and you know, it's got a wee touch of sweetness on top. Then yeah, you've got this lovely sort of fruity character, just this lovely, slightly oily, fruity character coming out of it as well. So yeah, the way that everything pieces together in this one, I think is really quite nice. So it gets a big thumbs up from me. So yeah, I think we can leave it there. This one was the Landbier, a 4.8% Landbier lager, if you like, from Rigg Furrow Brewery on Acklington Park Farm near Morpeth in Northumberland in the northeast of England. So yeah, really interesting beer, this one, and I'm glad I got the chance to try this. Something a wee bit different. My first English brewed land beer, my first land beer generally for quite some time. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Rigg Furrow as well, and hopefully we can return to these guys again at some point in the fairly near future. But until the next time, check out my social media, check out Rigg Furrow's social media, and I'll catch you guys in another review very, very soon. Ciao just now.